Na
Sila,
frente
we
do
are waiting
palco.
for you close to the stage.
Sila. Sila Apurinã.
Sila
Estamos te
Apurina,
esperando na frente
we
do
are waiting
palco.
for you. Please come to the stage.
Gente, sentem aqui pra frente, por favor.
Please
Venham pra
sit
cá pra
closer
gente
to
ficar pertinho.
us. Let's be
Mais
together.
proximidade. Daqui 1 hora a gente vai ter um
Within
coquetel.
1 hour, we are going to have our
Então daí a
cocktail.
gente pode conversar bastante.
And we will be able to talk a lot.
Então, pessoal, obrigada por terem voltado
Thank
desse café.
you
Eu sei que já chega no
for
final do dia, a gente está louco para
returning
poder
from
ficar
the
juntos
coffee
conversando. A gente
break.
vai ter
I
duas
know
horas de
that's
coquetel para
the end of the
distribuir
day. We are
animais.
tired, but we
Peço
are
que
going to
vocês
have 2 more
organizem suas
hours
agendas,
of
caso ainda não
cocktails to
tenham
talk
feito,
in
para ficarem com a
case
gente até às
you
8.
hadn't
A gente
reserved this
estava agora
time
nesse
in
açaí da
your
tarde
agenda.
e
Please
a
do
Tati
that now.
Camargo citou a
We were in the
pimenta.
fishbowl
Lembra de manhã
activity,
que eu tive o programa
and
no
Tati
Mercado Livre?
Camargo said,
Que não
mentioned
chegou
the
a origem?
hourglass.
Agora a gente tem
We had a
aqui.
problem when
E
we
esse
didn't
é um
have the other
instrumento
hourglass
antigo,
before, but
conhecido,
now we
mas que
do
a gente
have.
convida aqui
So this is
aos
a
nossos
note,
painelistas
but
para terem essa
well-known
corresponsabilidade com o tempo.
instrument. So
Sonora é uma
please, let's
ampulheta de
share
5
this
minutos. A hora
responsibility.
que você
It
for
takes
começar a falar,
5
você
minutes.
tira
When you
e daí
start
você
talking,
pode
you
ter
turn it,
esse
and then
controle
you will
e passar
have
para a
the
próxima
control
pessoa.
and pass
Vale
the
dizer que as
floor to
falas
the
agora
next.
serão em espanhol. Se
Our
alguém precisar de tradução,
talks
por
now
favor,
are
corra para
in
pegar.
Spanish. If you need translation, please grab your device.
Todas em português? Ah, é depois. Ah, é que é
Ah,
depois.
they're all in
Peço desculpa.
Portuguese, but the next one is going to be in Spanish.
É em caboclês. Peguem o tradutor, a gente vai ter uma fala em caboclês. Depois dessa fala
And
deles, vai ter uma
after
fala em
their
espanhol. A gente não
speech,
vai ter
now we are
preparo,
going
por
to
isso que
have
seria importante quem precisar do
Spanish
microfone
speakers. So
do
if you need
tradutor,
the
bater aí.
translation devices, please grab them now.
Para estar todo mundo. Todos aqui? Então, vamos nessa. A gente vai acabar 6h05,
We're going
6h10.
to end
E daí a
at
gente vai para o coquetel.
6:05, at
Lobão,
10
fazendo
past
a moderação da
6.
mesa.
Let's have Tatiana Lobão as the
Oi.
moderator.
Olá a todas e
Hello,
todos,
everyone.
muito boa tarde. É um prazer
Good
estar nesse
afternoon.
dia com
It's a great
vocês. Eu sou a
pleasure
Tatiana
to
Lobão,
be here
eu
with
sou
you.
gerente
I'm
de
Tatiana
engajamento e
Lobão.
agente de mudança na
I am
ICES e
the
tive o
engagement
prazer
manager
de
at
receber esse convite para estar
ICS,
aqui ao lado de
and
pessoas
I
tão
had the
importantes para a nossa
pleasure to be
agenda,
invited to
falando de uma
this
pauta que é mais
roundtable,
importante ainda,
talking
que
about a
é
very
a
important
campanha Resposta
subject,
Somos
which is
Nós.
the
É uma
campaign
campanha
We
que
Are the
fala por si,
Response, a
sobre a
campaign
importância
that
da
is
gente
clear
não
on the
só
importance
ouvir, mas
of listening,
principalmente trazer, as vozes e os corpos que
bringing the different
representam os
voices and
territórios para o
bodies
centro do
representing
debate.
the
Então,
territories
é uma honra
to the center
para a
of the
gente estar
debate.
aqui com a
And
oportunidade
it's a
de
great
falar com
honor to
pessoas
be
tão
here. I have
importantes.
the
Estou
opportunity
aqui
to be side by
acompanhada da
side with very
Sila,
important
do
people.
Johnny,
I
da
have with
Alana
me
e da Elisa. Nós
Sila,
vamos
Gioni,
ouvir
Alana, and
todos, mas
Elisa.
antes
We're
de
going
ter
to
essa
listen
oportunidade de
from
escutar
them.
cada um
But
deles,
before
a gente
having
vai
this
ver um
opportunity to listen
vídeo
from
para
them,
todo mundo
we are
entrar
going
nessa
to watch a
sintonia e já
video
preparar os
so that we can
corações para essas falas
prepare
tão
our
potentes.
mood and hearts for the
Obrigada.
powerful speeches that are coming next. Thank you.
Nós, crianças indígenas da Amazônia, compartilhamos a autoridade climática que vem dos nossos ancestrais. Nossa voz deve ser ouvida e respeitada. Escute o nosso chamado, somos o futuro, o presente e o agora. Os ancestrais nos ensinaram a ouvir a natureza. E agora pedimos que os outros adultos nos ouçam. Estamos ouvindo o mundo de vocês desmoronando. E vocês conseguem nos ouvir? Queremos água limpa, sem poluição e sem minério. Não queremos que os nossos rios e igarapés sejam sujos com petróleo. A nossa luta não é só nossa, mas sim de todo mundo. O nosso tempo é agora. A terra é nossa mãe e precisa ser cuidada. Somos criança e somos resistência. A resposta somos nós. A resposta somos nós. A resposta somos nós. A resposta somos nós.
Muito bem, então com esse pedacinho tão inspirador, eu passo a palavra agora para a Alana.
The inspiring video, I would like to give the floor to Alana. She's going to talk about this campaign, about the importance of this movement. Alana, it's very nice to meet you. I will give you the floor. Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure as Coiabe, coordinating the indigenous organization of the Brazilian Amazon. It's very important for us to be part of this debate. It's been a long journey, and we've been understanding COP30 as an opportunity to strengthen the fight of our movements. And thinking about this process of unity, we established a journey from this global campaign, and we started to build this campaign last year. So differently from the next continent that is going to receive COP31, in Brazil, we've been organizing for a long time. So the campaign, the response are us, we are the response, is integrating all the actors important to this process to think about the problem that has brought us here, why we couldn't achieve our climate goals, why we have many issues concerning the discussions within the spaces, which are the climate conferences, and we are not able to get this common denominator of consensus to bar this climate crisis. So we created this campaign called We Are the Response. We are part of this COIAB network. We have 9 states in our jurisdiction. We have the Organization of Women from the Amazon. We have the first indigenous fund that was created in Brazil and Latin America that has been strengthening the direct financing to the territories. And we have our articulation of indigenous peoples in Brazil. And we've been dialoguing with the partner organizations. We have Silas from GTA, we have Giovanni from CNS, and we have uh, Elisa from MAB. So the campaign is such that we could have this consciousness that not only are the community protecting the territories, but everyone. We understand who are the main climate villains, but when we have an engaged society, when we are together, united around our territory, that are uh, carbon sinks, they are protecting against deforestation, and together we can move on under the same banner. We, some countries have a greater awareness on indigenous peoples and they can influence this movement. So we're calling society in general. So this campaign, We Are the Response, is evoking this collective responsibility, thinking about all the actors who are suffering with the effects of the climate crisis. As traditional communities, we are causing the least impact for the climate crisis, but we are suffering the most with the impact on our territories. Um, Concerning adaptation, we have experienced this severe drought in the Amazon. I'm from the state of Acre, but I've been living in Manaus, and I couldn't imagine having this drought in this huge river. But we experienced that last year, and um, we were we felt a lot of damage from criminal fires impacting our lives and our territories. So the campaign We Are the Response is evoking this social responsibility. We understand that the debate of COP is a technical debate. It's a debate that, in fact, doesn't provide access to our population. Most of the debate is happening in English. We don't have an easy access to this debate, and we are observers, but we didn't have this process. At ECHO 92, we have the Earth Summit, and we had social movements around our cause, and but we are talking from the outside, and now we are able to engage in advocacy from the inside, and we have this common agenda so that we can all speak the same language, even if in different contexts, in different biomes, in different continents, but speaking the same language, that we are in favor of the protection of the territory. And the protection of the territory is directly connected to the climate goals that must be achieved from this dialogue. And the countries must achieve that. And our priority for this advocacy are the rights to the land. And we bring all this discussion. The children just told you what they want for this legacy at COP30. For us, indigenous peoples and local communities, there's no process of strengthening and building our lives and communities without thinking about everyone, from children to elders. So this campaign, We Are the Response, is an open campaign for civil society and private individuals, understanding that this campaign goes beyond COP. And the legacy of our campaign, the legacy of COP30, is the unity in our fight as social movements. And if the world leaders are not able to guide us, we, the local communities, we have the right pathway for us to thread so that we can um, curb the climate crisis. We are all the response. And the response are the indigenous children who are saying, we don't want our territory exploited. We don't want oil. We don't want mining. We want clean water. And everyone wants clean water within their territories, their homes. That's why we have this response. We are the response.
Muito obrigada, Alana. Acho
Thank
que
you
tem
so
ficado
much, Alana.
claro aqui
I
a
think there's a
pouco da
clear message
importância, né, do
here
envolvimento
concerning
dos
the
territórios,
importance of
né,
the
das pessoas que
engagement
são
in the
preocupadas com os territórios
territories
nesse debate. Por isso eu
and
vou convidar
those
agora o Dione
concerned
para falar um pouquinho
with the
da
territories.
experiência dele, da
That's why
simulação
I'm
da
going to
campanha e dos
call
desafios que
Gianni
eles
so that he
encontram
can talk about
nesses
his
territórios.
experience
Dione, você
in
quiser
this
fazer a pergunta.
campaign and the challenges they face in the territory. Gianni, if you wish.
Oi, oi, oi. Tá aqui.
Hello.
O negócio vai ser virar esse trem aqui. Boa
Let me
tarde,
try and
pessoal.
turn that. Good afternoon, everyone.
Prazer estar aqui. Ô, Tatiana,
It's a
agradecer
pleasure to be here,
você pela
Tatiana.
grande
I'd
convite
like
também.
to thank you
Turma que está aqui,
on
Cida,
behalf
Alana,
of
Elisa.
our
Bom,
organization, and I'd
a
like to
campanha A
thank
Resposta
IX.
Somos Nós tem uma
And this
carta, a
campaign, We
declaração
Are
de
the
povos,
Response,
a Resposta Somos Nós, tem
has
algumas questões que
this
nós trazemos
some issues
como
that we bring
pontos
from
centrais.
the
A
letter
primeira delas, no
of
contexto do
indigenous people,
território. Como a
which
Alana
are
disse, basta olhar
core
para as
points in the
estatísticas
context of
oficiais
the territory. We
e
must
é
observe
possível comprovar
the
que
official
os territórios
statistics,
indígenas,
and we are able
comunidades
to prove that
quilombolas,
the
projetos de
Quilombo
assentamentos
communities,
especiais
indigenous peoples,
protegidos
and
e as reservas
uh,
ecoprotegistas são
special
importante barreira de
settlements
contenção,
are an
ao
important
desmatamento e,
barrier to
consequentemente,
contain
contribuem de forma
deforestation, and
significativa para
we are
para
contributing
a
in a
redução das
meaningful
mudanças
way to
climáticas.
reduce the climate change.
Outro ponto que a nossa
The
carta
other
aborda com
point
bastante
that
ênfase
is
é a
approached
importância das
by our
pessoas.
letter is the
Não tem como
importance of
discutir
people. We cannot
enfrentamento às mudanças
discuss
climáticas sem
and face
considerar
climate
as
change
pessoas como
without considering
promotoras dessas
people as the
transformações, desse
promoters of
enfrentamento.
this
Então
transformation.
a gente foca muito nisso.
So we
A
focus on
outra
that.
questão que nós
And the
evidenciamos na
other
nossa
issue
declaração
that is
são
clear
as
in
denúncias.
our
Os nossos
declaration
territórios,
are
como
the
disse a
complaints.
companheira
Our
Alana,
territories,
sofrem
as
dos
Alana said, are
impactos, seja
suffering
da grilagem da terra,
several different
exploração
kinds of
ilegal, né,
impact with
garimpo,
land grabbing,
desmatamento
illegal
ilegal e
mining,
tantos outros
deforestation,
projetos
and many
e
other
empreendimentos. Então a gente
infrastructure
denuncia
projects.
isso
So
para o
we
mundo e assim também
denounce
como os
that to
grandes
the
modelos,
world.
digamos,
And
em
also
desenvolvimentos aí que
the main
impulsionam a queima de
development
combustíveis fósseis, por
models
exemplo.
that are
E a outra
pushing
questão
for
que a gente
fossil fuels. And
anuncia
the
na
other
nossa
issue that
declaração
we announce
é
in our
o envolvimento de
declaration
toda a
is the
sociedade para
engagement
fazer
of the
parte dessa
entire
campanha
society to
e
be part of
dizemos
this
sempre
campaign.
que
because we always say that facing the climate crisis is not only our role as indigenous peoples. This is the role of the entire society and the role of the state and companies to observe the efficient measures.
And based on that, there are a few fundamental issues that we bring as key points. One of them is the environmental issue. We understand that while protecting a collective use traditional territory, we're promoting the protection of our livelihoods, our culture, our existence. The issue of social aspect is another important point. We have diversity among our movements, but we want to show to the COP that we have unity in our struggle that converges to the defense toward the defense of our planet and our humanity. We also present as possible solutions models of economic development from the economies of social biodiversity, the innovation of livelihoods, the protagonism of the youth, and the empowerment of women. Culture and ancestrality. It is impossible to think about the maintenance of our livelihood and our culture if we don't think about this transition of the intergenerational knowledge. We need to learn from our elders, but we also have to do as the elders do, because that is their life lesson. What our elders showed us and taught us, that is what makes our territories still remain protected. We know that fight against climate change has huge challenges. One of them is that when the changes reach our territory, we have trouble adapting to these changes. The first issue is the social isolation, because our rivers are our streets. So when we have the drought in our territory or the flood, it causes us to be isolated. Now, other issue is the right to housing. I am from the Médio Solimões region in the Amazon. When the floods are too extreme, they affect our houses. We are forced to evict our houses because our houses get completely flooded. But it is worth remembering as well that the elevated growth of the sea level the elevated rise of sea level is affecting whole regions where families have to be displaced because we have the issue of water, dirty water, and there's landslides that make those families live there. Consequently, the lack of sanitation makes our livelihood be harmed, as well as our health. We cannot discuss, as we said, without the social participation. It is very important that everybody is engaged in this process. And we cannot guarantee that without the guarantee of our territory. Our territory is our house, is our life, is our place to teach and learn. It is important to bear this in mind because we want to be at the COP, we want to be at the discussion spaces. We don't want photo ops only. We have a lot of expectations on the results and the outcomes. We want to get to know how the local communities and the original peoples are discussing climate change, and how after the COP we can continue strengthening our struggle in defense of the environment and the rights of traditional peoples. Thank you very much, Johnny. To continue contributing to our discussion, I invite now Elisa, who is going to contribute to our debate and talk a little bit about the campaign, talk about MOB, the movement of people affected by dams. Good afternoon, everyone. I was looking at the hourglass. I think we should adopt this analog way of keeping track of time. Thank you very much for the invitation to share the campaign and our experiences in such a decisive moment where all the organizations of the civil society are looking at the climate change and are looking at the environmental issues. It is a pressing challenge of our time. in order to advance towards a more just society. I'm part of the MAB, the Movement of People Affected by Dams. It was founded in the 1980s after the construction of the big hydropower plants in Brazil that evicted populations from their territories, that concentrated the wealth and from the generation of hydropower, they charge from the families expensive rates, even though this is the cheapest energy in the world. But the movement also amplifies and diversifies in the Brazilian territory. It organized the people affected by the rupture of dams, especially in the last few years, where we had the rupture of the Brumadinho and Mariana dams. And with the extreme events of climate crisis, we notice that we, people affected, become doubly vulnerable. We have the example of the storms in Rio Grande do Sul, the droughts in the Amazon, and the urban outskirts, and also the country, the rural area. And in this diversity of our movement, what unites us is a reading of the reality, a very critical reading that the cause of this climate crisis that we are experiencing and these problems that affect us, they are a result of the production mode where we live in. They are a result of the capitalism. So we have this very structural criticism. I could take the final moments, I could watch the final moments of the previous table on the climate finance, and I could notice the boundaries of searching for solutions via market and via financial capital to solve the problems that the same model is causing. It may sound obvious, but a system that is based on the generation of profit as its priority and that has the assumption that the nature is an infinite resource and that the workers can be explored to the biggest extent, this model is not going to offer solutions that we need. And because of that, we answered the call by COIAB and other organizations to add our strength to the campaign. The answer is us, because we believe in the need to expand the participation and popular protagonism in the climate discussion and environmental discussion, but also the deployment of the solutions from the standpoint of adaptation or mitigation. We don't want only to be heard. We don't want only to give our opinion. We don't want to be a line in a text that is going to circulate in the hands of the presidents and big world leaders. We want to build in the territories possibilities for us to be involved in facing this crisis. For example, the people affected from Rio Grande do Sul, they want to build their settlements, they want to build their houses. They don't want only this city hall to distribute the resources from social welfare programs, because we have this model of collective settlement with better houses, cheaper houses, and with the strengthening of the people affected, including the women and the youth. We want climate finance directly to the grassroots organizations without intermediaries. This is also in the agenda of our campaign. We recently accomplished the policy of rights of people affected by dams. It was sanctioned by President Lula in 2023. After 20 years actually of struggle, we still didn't have a lot to say what are the rights, who are the people affected, what are the forms of reparation. None of it was on paper. It varied from company to company and from situation to situation. And we finally achieved and accomplished this law, but it does not encompass the people affected by the new projects of energy transition or the climate events of the extreme events of the climate crisis. These are all agendas that we have to advance in. We can talk more during the questions. Thank you. Thank you very much, Elisa. And to wrap up this first round of interventions, I invite Sila to talk to us. Sila is from the Amazon Work Group. Can you tell us your perspective of the campaign, Sila, and what else you want to contribute to this first round of comments? Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to greet the colleagues here in the panel on behalf of my relative Alana and all of the men here on behalf of the comrade Johnny. Talking about the campaign is going back to the time of our ancestors. I wrote something here. I'll try to read it so I don't lose the focus of what is being discussed here. The campaign, We Are the Answer, is very important for traditional peoples, among them indigenous people, riverside communities, quilombola communities, fisher peoples, and all other peoples that live in the Amazon and live in the forest. Because acknowledging and appreciating the key role of these populations in the environmental conservation, in cultural resistance, and sustainable solutions for the social challenges is paramount. We also bring the appreciation and the valuation of knowledge. We saw in the beginning of the video the children with a view of the present and a view of the future. We should acknowledge this knowledge. The campaign restates that traditional peoples and communities are not only beneficiaries of public policies, but protagonists in the defense of life and nature, the defense of biodiversity, the defense of culture. Their livelihoods bring ancestral knowledge on how to handle the forest, care for their territories and natural resources. The campaign, in my opinion, brings the strengthening of autonomy and protagonism by affirming the answer is us. It incentivizes the autonomy of traditional peoples and communities, showing that the solutions for climate crisis and the social inequality and loss of biodiversity must start with those who live and protect in those territories. That helps fight paternalistic views and centralizing views. The campaign also brings social and political mobilization, stimulates the unity among peoples and social movements and organizations and people, as Alana mentioned, to ask for public policies, ensure territorial rights, fight against environmental racism, which is what affects us the most in this discussion, and strengthen the representation of peoples in organizations and decision-making spaces, defending the climate and the environment. The traditional peoples are the main guardians and carers and caregivers for biodiversity and sustainable practices. They help face the climate crisis and the extreme events. The campaign shows that protecting these peoples is protecting the planet. It's a change in the narrative. Historically, we have always been marginalized, invisible in our communities. Today, we are seen as a key part of the global solutions, not as obstacles, but as a progress of people that are contributing directly to against the climate, against the crisis. Campaign helps transforming the perception on the role of these people in the society. The answer is us. Reaffirms that the traditional peoples and communities are key parts and the answer to the social crises, the environmental and climate crises. In this sense, ancestral knowledge brings out our essence. But I also like to comment that for the campaign, the answer is us. To be established, we need to advance in public policies. We need to advance in a just, energy inclusive, and responsible energy transition. We need to advance in the fight against the oil industry and the fossil fuel industry, which are the biggest emitters of greenhouse gases. And as traditional communities, we are doing our part, but we need the COP to be also held accountable for this role. The commitment of truly fight against the fossil fuels, eliminating fossil fuels of the agenda of COP30. Only then we will certainly strengthen the campaign. The answer is us, but it's not only about us. We need the policies to be enforced or to be guaranteed, giving us this pathway and this responsibility also for us.
Muito obrigada, Sila, pela sua
Thank you very much, Sila, for the powerful contribution. Now we're going to open the floor for a few questions. I will ask a first question to give time for people to think about their questions, and I count on your help for us to collect contributions from the audience. Taking the link with what Sila just mentioned, how can we get more people, including in the cities where more than 80% of the population is concentrated, in the case of Brazil, to recognize themselves as part of the answer to the climate crisis? How can we expand the adherence to the campaign? The answer is us.
Posso começar?
I can start. We have talked, especially inside of our organizations, that this debate of the climate agenda is way beyond our reality. Not because we don't understand it or we cannot discuss about what was mentioned in this climate discussion, but because we purposefully are excluded as indigenous peoples. So we need to make this call so that the non-organized society, so that the individuals can join our campaign. And we have translated what was discussed in the climate negotiation spaces to our daily language. So we say more forests, less soil, and this means that we're protecting our territories and bringing the guarantee that this territory is making their contribution. In our dialogues, we have reaffirmed that we already have a process of contribution to stop the effects of climate crisis. What is the contribution of the rest of the humanity? What is this humanity doing to engage in this process? But this is not enough. When we think about the advocacy of COP30, we have taken our debate also towards social participation. In all spaces that we talk about the COP, I say that it is not enough to have the reaffirmation of the commitments through the climate plan if in 2026 we allow another setback of having an extreme right government in our country. We have strengthened the dialogues with the social movement. We have discussed it a lot in our campaign, how we're going to make the climate actions be placed under discussion of the public administration and under discussion when it comes to the elections of 2026, because it is not enough to have climate mitigation if we don't mitigate what is happening in the National Congress. Today we have an agribusiness caucus, a evangelical caucus that is against the protection of territories. If we do not mitigate the National Congress, this whole process of advocacy is not going to be enough if if we don't have a parliament or a presidency that does not protect our territory. So we need to make the society in general understand that there is a process of integrated strengthening.
It's not enough to talk about the territory without talking about bioeconomy. We cannot talk about climate without biodiversity. So we don't live in small boxes. Our life is integrated, and we must achieve the National Congress.
Bom, eu sou do tipo de pessoas que acredito que
I
toda revolução
believe that every
de
revolution
transformação,
starts
inclusive do
with
processo de
transformation
transformação do
processes,
pensamento humano.
including the
Nesse
transformation
entendimento,
of
meu
a
papel
person's
dentro dessa
mindset,
transformação, né? A
recognizing my
revolução, ela é
role
quase que um
within this
desejo de
revolution.
mudança, onde
So
nós
the
buscamos poder
revolution
lidar
is this
na
desire for
corrida,
change,
do enfrentamento às
seeking
mudanças
this
climáticas.
ideal
A
world.
gente entende
And in this
que
race against
existe em
climate
toda a
change, we
sociedade
understand that the
a
entire
concepção humana
society
primeiro entenda
in
qual o
its
meu
human
papel
conception
nesse mundo
should
e como que eu
understand
posso contribuir de
our
maneira
role in
efetiva
this world
no
and how
enfrentamento
we
às
can
crises climáticas.
contribute
E
uh,
a outra
to
percepção
face
é no
the
cargo
climate
onde eu
crisis.
ocupo, seja numa
And
instituição, numa
the
ONG,
other
ou seja no Estado.
understanding
Como que eu posso, a partir da
concerns
minha
the role
organização, efetivamente
I
contribuir também para
perform,
esse
either
processo de
in an
transformação?
NGO
A
or
gente
working
precisa
for the
entender
state. How could I
de que
contribute for
os
this
efeitos das
transformation
mudanças
process?
climáticas
We should
impactam não
understand that the
somente nós
climate
que estamos lá
change
debaixo
effects
dessa
are
palmatória,
impacting not only
mas
us who are
impacta também toda a
uh,
sociedade humana, inclusive aquelas que estão
with the
nos
forest,
grandes
but the
centros urbanos.
entire
E,
human society,
infelizmente, a gente só
even
vê uma
those who are
mudança, uma
living in the urban
sensibilização,
centers. But we only
quando,
see
muitas das vezes, as marcas
awareness
que saem das
when
queimadas do
the
centro-oeste
smokes
ou da
who are
Amazônia
coming
chegam em São
from
Paulo.
the
Ou
criminal
quando as
fires
pessoas
in the
começam a morrer no
Midwest or
centro-oeste,
in the
ou
Amazon
seja,
are coming
no
to São
sul ou no
Paulo,
sudeste.
or we have
Então, é
scarcity
preciso a
due
gente
to
entender que o
droughts
efeito
in
dessas mudanças
the North
climáticas,
or
que
the
chegam muitas
Midwest.
das vezes
So we must
aos grandes
understand
centros
that the
urbanos, que
effect
a
of climate
sociedade
change
precisa
are
contribuir
reaching
de
the
maneira
urban
qualificada
centers, and
conosco,
society must
porque os
fight with
nossos
us
territórios não
because
é
our
estrada para o
territory
desenvolvimento.
is
Pelo
not a
contrário,
barrier
como
to
dizemos nós na
development.
campanha
It's
Resposta
the
Verde,
opposite.
somos
As we
solução.
say in
Uma
the
outra
campaign, we
mudança
are
que é
the response.
essencial
We are the
é uma visão
solutions.
a partir de
Another
modelos de
key change
desenvolvimento
is
econômico.
this
A gente
vision
precisa
from
olhar
this
a
economic
matéria-prima, principalmente
development
muitas vezes
model. We
recursos
must
naturais,
observe
né,
the raw
que está
materials
conservado
coming
nas
from the
fontes de
natural
diversidade,
resources,
não só
which are
como
conserved
oportunidade de
with social
negócio e de
biodiversity, not
concentração de
only
grande
as a
capital
business
financeiro.
opportunity to
É preciso a
concentrate
gente olhar
big capital,
as
but
economias
we
da
must
própria
observe the
diversidade dos
social
recursos naturais a
biodiversity
partir dessa
economies and the
observação das
natural
pessoas que estão
resources,
lá cuidando.
considering this
O território você
interrelation,
não defende só
considering the
metade.
peoples who are
A
defending the
sociobiodiversidade
land.
não se concentra
And
em forma
social
só, está
biodiversity
em
is
todo o
not
mundo.
concentrated
Por
in a
isso
single
que, ao
biome, it's
defender
everywhere.
os
That's
territórios
why when we
tradicionais na
defend the
Amazônia,
traditional
a gente
territories
também
in
se
the Amazon,
sensibiliza que é
we also
preciso ter uma
uh,
política que a gente também
understand that we
concentre
must
na
have a
conservação do
policy
cerrado. Não
where we
adianta a gente estar
can have
protegendo
the conservation of
comunidades
Cerrado.
quilombolas,
It's
reservas
not enough to
indígenas na
protect the
Amazônia,
indigenous
se a gente está
communities and
avançando
Quilombo
o
communities
processo
in the
madurista do
Amazon
cerrado
if
na
we
terra
are
dessas nações. Então é
killing
preciso a
our
gente olhar o
springs in
certo modelo
Cerrado.
de desenvolvimento
That's why
que
we
traz essa
need to have this
compatibilização
development model
do
that
uso
can bring
adequado, da justiça
the
ambiental, da
proper
inclusão social, do
use
respeito ao meio
of
ambiente e da
the
valorização da cultura
environment,
dos nossos povos
respecting
indígenas.
culture and
E o
our
terceiro ponto, é
livelihood,
preciso
and
que o
also
Estado se
the
faça
local
presente.
communities. And the state
Muitas
must
das
be
pressões
present.
socioterritoriais que nós
Many of the
enfrentamos hoje
territorial
têm
pressures
como
that we
fruto
face
também,
today
muitas das vezes, ou uma
are
política mal
caused
elaborada e
by
mal implementada, ou
an
muitas das
ill
vezes
elaborated
programas ou
policy,
políticas de
or many
Estado que
times
fomentam a
state
destruição dos nossos
programs that
territórios.
are
A
fostering
gente
the
precisa
destruction of
avançar
our
para
territory. So we
combater essa
must
economia da
advance to
destruição.
fight
A
this
gente precisa
economy
discutir
on
gestão
destruction. We must
participativa
discuss
com as
a
pessoas
participatory
fazendo essa gestão. A
management
gente
with
precisa
people
avançar no modelo de
doing this
desenvolvimento
management. We
econômico
must
que
advance in this
compreenda a realidade
economic
a partir
model
das
that
economias da
could understand the
sustentabilidade
reality
e a gente
from
precisa,
the
acima de tudo,
biodiversity
reconhecer
economy. And
que o
most of all,
espaço
we
da
must
organização
recognize
social
the
como
space
Estado
of
um
the
espaço
community
político,
social
onde a gente se
organization,
organiza não
a
só para
political
defender o nosso
space where
território,
we are
mas
organized not
buscando
only to
também
defend our
atender e ter todos os
territory, but
nossos
also
direitos de
seeking
forma plena
to
e
have
objetiva.
our rights.
Muito obrigada. Posso? Muito obrigada, pessoal, pela
Thank you so
apresentação
much,
de vocês,
everyone, for your
reflexões,
introduction and for
abertura dessa
bringing your
conversa,
reflections and
dessa
opening up
mesa
this
ou desse
conversation at
sofá.
this round
Então, eu
table.
queria abrir agora
So
rapidamente para
I'd like
3
to
perguntas.
open
Então,
for
vocês
3
que estão aqui
questions.
presentes, perguntas para os nossos convidados. E aí a gente tem uns 10 minutinhos. Eu vou
And
coletar
we're
as
going
3 e
to
depois
have
e
10
passo para
minutes,
vocês,
and I'm
tá
going
bom?
to collect the 3
Quem, por
questions, and
favor,
I'm going
gostaria de
to
trazer
pass the floor
uma
to you, okay?
pergunta? Alguém
Who would
mais?
like
Mais 2 vozes?
to
Ou
send a
comentários ou
question?
reações?
Voices, comments, reactions?
Não? Ninguém? Você? Maravilha. 2 pessoas, a gente tem espaço para
So
mais
we
uma.
have
Eu
2
vou passar
people,
para
we
vocês
have
fazerem
room for
a
another
pergunta de
one.
vocês, e aí se a gente tiver tempo de uma terceira, senão eu já encaminho, tá bom?
Boa tarde. Eu sou a
Hello,
Bia
good afternoon.
Saldanha, do
I'm Bia
Acre.
Saldanha from the state of Acre. I'm an economist,
Environmental Defense
and
Fund.
today I'm at the
Na verdade, um
Environmental
comentário que eu
Defense
queria fazer
Fund.
sobre a
I'd like to
campanha.
make a
Eu estava
comment
falando hoje no almoço,
on the
almoçando com
campaign.
colegas aqui do
I was
seminário, me
talking
chamando a atenção
to
que,
other
na
colleagues
minha
in the
visão, a
seminar,
gente
and
tem assim um grande desafio
in
de
my opinion, we
comunicação,
have a
né, em
great
todas as
communication
nossas agendas,
challenge in all of
como
the
sociedade
agendas.
civil, como
As civil
organizações dos
society,
territórios.
as
Acredito
organizations
que
from the
os povos
territory.
indígenas e as comunidades
I
tradicionais têm
understand that
avançado
the indigenous
muitíssimo, muito
peoples and the
mais do que as
traditional communities have been
organizações da
advancing a
sociedade
lot,
civil, com essa
much
agenda
more
dos
than the civil
comunicadores, né?
society
A Alana é um
organizations with
exemplo
this agenda
maravilhoso
of
disso, uma
communicators.
excelente
Alana
comunicadora
is
por
an excellent
excelência.
example.
Eu
She's
acho
a
que esse
great
foco na
communicator.
comunicação é
I
super
think that
importante.
this focus on
Vejo que a
communication is
campanha
super
A
important.
Resposta Somos Nós
And
é uma
the
oportunidade, de
campaign, We
fato,
Are the
de
Response,
comunicação
is an
muito
opportunity
potente
to have
e
this
queria
powerful communication.
acrescentar, até
And I'd
porque
like
um
to
pouco
add
em função da tua pergunta, né, a esse desafio de
something.
comunicação, a Cineia do Vale, num evento que teve
Cineia do
em São
Vale,
Paulo mês
in
passado,
this
ela
event
fez um exercício
last
com
month,
a
she had this
plateia
exercise with the
que
audience,
eu achei assim muito
and I
sábio,
thought
muito
it was
eficaz
it was
e
very
que me deu a noção do quanto
very
amplo
wise, and it gave me the
o
idea
mote dessa campanha,
about
essa
how
frase,
broad
a
this
resposta somos
campaign
nós, porque
is.
era uma plateia basicamente de CEOs de
It's
empresas
an audience
assim
of
bem
CEOs
fora,
from
né, da
different
bolha, da
companies,
nossa bolha aqui.
different
E
from
ela
our
pediu no
bubble
final do
here.
evento que todo mundo
And at the
levantasse
end
as
of
suas
the
mãos
event,
e ela
she
falou
asked everyone
no
to
palco
stand
a
up
resposta e mandou
and
todos
give hands.
nós falarmos somos nós.
And
Então, porque de
we
verdade
asked
também
the
a
audience to
resposta
say,
somos
we are
nós,
the response,
né?
because
A
we are the
resposta, por um
response.
lado, são
On the
vocês,
one
aquilo que
hand,
vocês trazem da contribuição
you are
de
the
vocês, com
response
os
with your
conhecimentos de
contribution,
vocês, com as
with your
plataformas de
knowledge,
vocês,
with
criaram esses
the
ecossistemas,
ways
né,
you created these
de milhares de
ecosystems
anos, mas também
with
as
thousands of
nossas
years,
mudanças,
but
as
also
mudanças que nós
our
temos
changes, the changes
responsabilidade de
that we are
implementar
responsible
enquanto
for
sociedade, essa
as a
sociedade capitalista de
society,
consumo,
as a
essas
capitalist
empresas,
consumerist
nós, sociedade
society with
civil,
different
também
companies,
temos,
and us
né,
as
a
civil society,
resposta
we also
também
have
somos
the
nós. Então,
response.
acho que essa coisa
So the
dupla,
response
né, de
is also
dimensionar
us.
essa
So
responsabilidade da resposta para
we should
o
send
outro
this
lado também, que é onde a
responsibility
gente se une,
to
né,
the
de
others
poder
as well, so
também
that we can get
estarmos
together
todos assumindo a responsabilidade de dar
to
a resposta que a gente
take
precisa
this
para esse
responsibility and
desafiador.
to give the response that we need in this
Muito
challenging.
obrigada. Gostariam de reagir?
Thank you so much. Would you like to react, Sila?
A pergunta, aí a gente passa. Pode ser?
Muito obrigado. Primeiro, parabéns pela
Congratulations on the organization. I think that this horizontal format translates this this motto, we are the response. I'm Paulo Horta from the Federal University of Santa Catarina. I'm a researcher who work for the Climate Network, and we are concerned with communication, and we've been building with the youth in the region of Florianopolis this documentary film called Pia, in this Guarani perspective. That means that it's a little bit of us walking around. These are our children. They are part of our hearts. They are walking hearts. So especially in the state of Santa Catarina, in the city of Florianópolis, we don't have this ability to communicate with the government, with the state, to dialoguing with the governance so that they could be connected to action. So, is the state seeing itself as us? Are governments sensitive to the responses coming from us?
Muito obrigada, e a gente vai pegar mais uma terceira fala, e aí eu
Thank
passo
you.
um
We are going
exercício para vocês
to go
de
around to
conclusão e
ask for
fechamento, tá
another
bom?
question, and then we are
Boa tarde a
going to wrap up.
todos e a
Good
todas.
afternoon,
Em primeiro
everyone.
lugar, eu queria cumprimentar, né, o pessoal da
I'd like
organização
to
desse
greet
evento, que eu estou aqui desde
those
o dia 10.
organizing
Eu sou
this
analista
event.
de
I've
dados,
been
sou
here
assistente
since
social,
the
trabalho com catadores e
October 10th. I'm a
revendedores.
social
Eu
worker.
sou do
I'm
grupo de
Nadia
mulheres
Soares. I
negras da
work with
Ambara no Cerrado.
garbage
E com a
pickers, and
Organização
I'm from
Estadual
this
de Mulheres
group of
Negras, que está lá
Black
atuando, que é a
women in the
comunidade
Cerrado.
Calunga, né, de
And
Monte Alegre.
I come from
E
this
tem até
community
gente
called
acampada aí para
Calunga and Monte
redor que vocês
Alegre. We
mandam
have
ver,
people
acolher
camping
uns
there.
lá na nossa
My
casa e no
sister is a
apartamento.
nun, and she
Eu
was
vou
able to
agradecer o
host some
nome
people there because we're
desse
facing many
rapaz,
fires.
o seu
I didn't
nome,
memorize your
É
name,
assim,
Gione.
é a juventude, é vocês do território.
So
Aqui hoje teve
it's the
grande fala,
youth
porque você falou uma coisa, a
coming
gente
from the
tem que se
territory
preocupar com
that
todos
is
os biomas,
giving
com o
us the
lixo, com
greatest
a
message,
Amazônia, com a
because you
água.
told us that we should be
Teve um
concerned
depoimento hoje da menina aqui de
with the
Guarujá,
garbage,
uma
with the
bióloga, falando
water.
que ela
And a
trabalha com
biologist
pescador e
said that
pescador
she is
chegou,
working with
eles
a
fizeram um
fisherman,
evento,
and they
aí ele
had
falou
an
que
event,
antigamente ele
and he
pegava o
said that
peixe
in the
e
past
agora ele
he
pega o lixo,
used
e
to
é
catch
ele produz o que
fish,
a
and now
natureza só
he's
produz.
catching
Eu
garbage. And
queria te
who is buying the
parabenizar,
garbage?
porque é
Because the companies are
vocês
only
da
producing the
educação e
garbage. And
vocês
I'd
do
like to
território,
congratulate
o
you
pessoal
because you from the
indígena,
territory,
nós
the
já tivemos
indigenous
muitas
people,
mulheres
and
indígenas em
the
conferências,
traditional communities, and
espaços
we've been
grandes,
to
então assim,
indigenous
para
peoples in
aprovar.
different
Então,
conferences
assim, eu queria te
to
parabenizar, porque
approve
você
different measures.
preocupa
And I'd like to
com tudo,
congratulate
com
you
todo o
because you're
bioma que o
concerned about the
Cerrado pega
world, about
fogo.
the biome, and Cerrado is facing fire right
Muito
now.
obrigada pela sua presença
Thank you
também e
so
pela sua
much for
fala.
your presence and your speech.
Passo para quem
I'd
gostaria.
like to give the floor to,
Pode. É,
would you like?
eu
Yes.
queria provocar todos vocês
I would
fazendo o
like
seguinte.
to start with this provocation.
Vamos ficar de pé um segundo, todos?
Let's stand up for a while, everyone,
Rapidinho. Vamos
very
lá, vamos lá.
fast.
Vamos levantar aí, vamos esticar aí
Let's
os
stand up,
bracinhos.
let's
Eu vou fazer o
stretch
seguinte, eu vou
our
dizer
bones.
a resposta e todos respondem
I'm going
somos nós.
to
A
say
resposta,
a resposta,
tá
and you're
fraco.
going
A
to say
resposta,
somos nós. So
ninguém
we
está se
are the
comprometendo. Aí
response.
a
We are
pergunta
the response.
da companheira, lá ela
So
perguntou assim, como que a gente pode envolver
our colleague
a
asked
cidade,
us,
o
how could
urbano?
we engage
Nós estamos
the
convidando
city,
vocês
the urban
para se
region?
envolver na campanha.
We are
E a
inviting
resposta,
you to get engaged,
agora vamos sentar.
and we are the response.
Eu queria,
Let's take our
assim,
seats.
também concluir dizendo que
I'd like to end
essa
by
campanha ela
saying that this
bem
campaign
provocativa mesmo, porque ela
it brings
remete
a
a
lot
todos
of
nós.
provocations
Ela
because
remete o nosso compromisso
it
pessoal
talks
com
about
o
our personal
planeta, com a
commitment with
vida,
the
com o
planet,
cuidado,
with life,
né,
with
com a mãe
care,
natureza.
with Mother
Então ela
Nature.
remete a
So
isso e por isso que ela tem esse nome
it
tão
reminds us
chamativo,
of that.
né?
And that's
Então
why
é
we have
convidar
this very important
cada uma
name,
a se envolver
inviting each
nessa
one of us
campanha
to
nos seus
engage in this
territórios, nas
campaign in our
escolas, nas
territories,
cidades, nos
in the
seus
cities,
centros, para que junto possamos, de
in
fato,
urban
ainda
centers, so that we
construir um
can
mundo
build
possível,
a
um mundo
possible
acessível.
world, an accessible world.
A outra coisa que o companheiro ali trouxe
And
é
something
que a
else brought
questão do
by our
governo, né?
colleague concerns
Como que o
the
governo nos
government,
olha, né? Nesse
how the
sentido da
government is
resposta
seeing
somos nós. Eu
us.
acho que nós já tivemos mais encaminhos mais longos, mais difíceis.
We've
Eu acho
had
que nós
harder
estamos numa
moments than
construção
now.
bastante
We are in this special moment when we're building a narrative with social participation. And we have this commitment from the government when we sat with the People's Summit and with the government to develop this campaign. And we had their commitment to appreciate and include our voices in this process. We know that we have challenges, that we have different views. We know that we must create that, and many times we see that happening in a top-down way. When we started discussing COP in 2023, after the Amazon dialogue, and we brought this narrative of social participation, advocacy, and participation in different spaces. So this campaign is this instrument for building, for participating.
Nós estamos quase no passado, mas as crianças são
We
o
are
presente.
almost in the
E esse
past,
presente
but
ele
the
tem que ser
children are the
cuidado, tem que
present,
ser zelado.
and
Esse
we must take
presente, esse
care of the
respirar
present.
seco do cerrado, úmido
And
da
we
floresta
must
amazônica,
breathe
mas nós precisamos
properly, not in a
garantir
dry way
que
as
os
in
nossos filhos
Cerrado
e os nossos
or
netos,
excessive
de fato, possam usufruir
moisture
de
way
coisas que
in
nós tivemos
the
no passado. Por
in
isso que
the
nós somos a
Amazon,
resposta,
and we
por
must
isso que nós
enjoy
precisamos
what
de
we
cada um de
had in the
vocês,
past. That's
por isso
why
que
we
nós
are the
precisamos que
response.
essa
That's why we
campanha seja
need each one
forte
of
e
you. We
seja
need this campaign
bem
to be
ecoada
strong,
em seus
and
territórios. Obrigada.
we need it to resonate in the different territories. Thank you.
Bom, vou começar por
Well, I'm
você.
going to start with you.
Eu fico muito honrado em ser
I was
considerado como
very honored
jovem
to
dentro desse
be
processo de
considered
transformação.
part
E é
of the
verdade
youth
porque
and being
eu e a
part of the
Alana, a gente veio
transformation
desse processo
process. And that's true
de
because Alana
juventude.
and I,
Eu
we
agora
came
estou
from this
esperando meu
youth
primeiro
movement,
neto
and
adolescente,
now
estou
I'm
feliz com isso.
expecting my first
38 anos, tá, pessoal? Mas para
grandchild,
dizer
and
também
I
que
was
muito do que eu
surprised with
sei é
that. I'm
parte do que você
38,
é
but a
e do
lot
que nós
of
somos.
I know is
Todo o
part
meu
of
processo
what
de
you are,
formação
of what we are.
política
All my process
veio
of
pela escola de
political
movimento social.
shaping
Para
came from
dizer
this
que
school
sim,
of
nós
social
acreditamos na
movements. Yes,
formação
we
política como
believe in the
processo de
political
transformação social.
education as a
É a
process for
certeza de que
social
nós plantamos
transformation.
sim uma
It's the
semente
certainty
e
that we
certamente vamos
plant a
colher bons
seed, and
frutos.
most certainly
Nossa
we are
luta é por
going to
nós,
reap good
é por
fruits.
vocês e
Our
por aqueles
fight
que
is
virão,
for
inclusive
us, is
como
for
mais velhos
you,
como
and
a
those
Alana.
who are going to come as my
A
grandchild.
questão da será que o governo está com a gente, o Estado?
Um,
A gente é
Concerning
muito difícil
the
trazer essa
presence of the
reflexão interna
state,
porque
it's
a gente
difficult
está de um
to
lado do
reflect
Estado
upon
e
that
a gente
because
não
we
pode
know
esquecer o nosso lado.
how the
Quando
state
a gente
works,
faz uma
but we
análise
cannot
sobre os
forget
impactos das
about our
mudanças
side.
climáticas nos
When we
territórios, a
have
gente
this
vê que
analysis
muitas
on the
coisas estão
impact of climate
relacionadas
change on the
aos fatores
territory, we
naturais,
see
mas
that a
muito
lot
dessa correção está
concerns
relacionado
natural
também a
factors,
desrespeito
but
ao mar
a
e à
lot
implementação da política pública. E a lição
is
que nós
due
temos visto é que
to
a ausência
this
das
poor
políticas públicas
application, this
relacionada
poor
ao
enforcement
agravamento
of
das
public
mudanças
policies.
climáticas
So this
expõe esses
poor
povos e comunidades
enforcement is
tradicionais e torna elas
exposing
numa situação de
traditional
maior vulnerabilidade.
communities,
E o
making
que
them more
efetivamente nós
vulnerable.
estamos
And
fazendo
what
para
are we
contribuir
doing
no enfrentamento das
effectively
mudanças
to
climáticas?
contribute
Primeiro, passa pelo
to
entendimento
the
de como que essas
climate
mudanças estão impactando de maneira direta a nossa
fight?
comunidade
We must
identificar
understand
eles,
how
quais são
this
essas
is
principais
impacting
mudanças.
our
A partir
community. What
disso,
are
a
the
gente traz
main
uma
changes?
perspectiva da
And from
resiliência,
there,
da
we
forma
bring this
correta de
perspective on resilience,
conscientizar a nossa população de que, de
raising
fato,
the
as mudanças
awareness of the
climáticas traz
population
transformação
so
não
that
só
they
no nosso
can
modo de vida e
understand that the
produção,
climate
mas
change
também
is
na nossa
bringing
cultura, quando a gente
transformations
tem que
in
se
our
deslocar para
livelihoods,
trabalho
our
para evitar o isolamento
culture,
social,
and when we
que a
have
gente
to
trabalhe também
leave
na
our
perspectiva de
territory
entender que, de
not
que
to be
parte dessa
isolated.
transformação
And we
climática
should
pode ser uma
understand the
corresponsabilidade
advocacy
que é do Estado,
perspective
que a
because
gente
there's
precisa
a
estimular politicamente
responsibility
para que o
from the
Estado garanta
state,
uma
and we
atitude
must
mais efetiva. E a
engage in
gente também
advocacy
propõe
so that the
modelo
state
de
can
desenvolvimento
provide our
alternativo, como
rights.
a gente
And we propose this
valoriza as
alternative development
iniciativas
model,
de ecologia e
appreciating the
sustentabilidade, mostrando
social
que a Amazônia pode
biodiversity
ser a
economy,
realidade tal
showing
que a
that
gente vê
the
e pode ser
Amazon could
autossustentável quando a
be
gente fortalece
self-sustainable
essas
when we
economias locais,
strengthen
promovem
the
não só
local
trabalho
economies,
e
promoting
emprego e
not
geração
only
de renda, mas também a
jobs
promoção
and
e a manutenção
income generation, but also the maintenance of our culture and livelihood. And from the state, we must reflect upon several aspects. We must elaborate public policies. The legal basis must cater to the population because the policy many times is not made for us or with us. We must listen to the society and different communities so that we can have proper policies. We must transform the discourse into practice. The state must have structure to implement the policies, and we should also participate not only in the implementation but also in monitoring. And above all, the previous panel brought that we need finance. We won't be able to transform and guarantee our rights only with political discourse. And I believe that in practice, we need to change that. We must leave the political discourse and be practical. That's it.
Since we are already wrapping up, I would like to thank ICS for the invitation. This is a space that was implemented by ICS to invite our organizations to talk a little bit about the campaign. So I would like to thank them for the opportunity to be here as a representative of COIAB. But I would like to bring a reflection about the campaign. It is a global call for solidarity because what happens in São Paulo with the floods, which are a great effect of the climate crisis, also happened in my state, Acre. So when we understand that we need to have solidarity among the peoples because all of the peoples are being affected, we can switch this key. We can turn this key. This also has to do what is happening in the Palestine with the issue of the territory of the Palestinian people, what is happening in Venezuela, what is happening in Ecuador. When we create this solidarity, we gather as peoples in favor of a cause. So the campaign brings this call for solidarity because our struggle is also the struggle of the Palestinian people. It is also the struggle of the peoples that suffered in Rio Grande do Sul with the floods, that lost their lives, lost their homes. What happens among us is the alliance of peoples. So for us, the campaign is this call for solidarity. That is why the answer is all of us, not me, not Johnny, not Sila, all of us. Especially because it can only change reality when we have solidarity. As a human person, when we look at the other suffering and we feel empathy for that pain that is being caused by the climate villains that we have faced. So it is very important to think about this process, and it's extremely dignified when we are in a space like this and everybody can acknowledge themselves as part of the change, either change of habits, but at the same time thinking that their role in society can change the lives of a whole community or a whole planet. This is the insight we would like to give you of a human solidarity among all peoples, thinking not only about what we are already experiencing, but what we are going to leave for the future generations. Our biggest concern today is, will our children be able to have access to the river where we bathed when we were kids? What is the legacy that we want to leave for the next generations? Will the children be able to access the same gardens, the same forests that we had access to? Are the children now already facing a big change in climate? They are already being affected in their health. So what is the legacy we want to leave to them? We want to leave a legacy of collectivity and solidarity, calling everyone who is here to be part of our campaign because it is not finished at COP30. COP30 does not finish our mobilization. This is a call for our whole lives to continue mobilizing. About the governments, I usually say, as social movement, that governments pass and the struggle remains. The struggle is of the people. We have the example of the amendment that was banned because of popular struggle, because of the struggle of society. If the struggle has connection with all of the peoples, we can advance. But obviously, what we are living in 2025 with the legislative that we have, with the governors that we have in the Amazon region, we are not going to advance to ban the effects of climate crisis. That is why 2026 is a decisive year, and it needs the engagement of everyone here. Thank you.
Bom, dialogando pouco com as... Pode virar para controlar o tempo, gostei da... Dialogando pouco com as
In a
perguntas
dialogue with the questions, trying to go through all of them and moving on to the conclusion. Sometimes there are a few surveys that show that Brazilian people seem to be the most environmentalist in the world. Yesterday, there was a survey saying that 60% of the population don't want new oil sites. It seems like everyone is concerned, but for us, it seems like an isolated topic that is not present in our daily lives. One of the elements go through this technical and diplomatic discussion that the topic of climate is surrounded by because of the dynamic of the discussion of these more formal spaces. We have this concern with how to talk to our people and our territories, the political articulation, as Johnny said. And another element, which is understanding this agenda of climate, the defense of biomes, the environment, is not separate from the general struggle for rights, the struggle for sanitation, housing, quality jobs. We should understand that these agendas are not separate. When we see that the main victims of climate crises and the extreme events, they are already victims of the abandonment of the state, the lack of access to health, the lack of access to transportation, quality jobs, education, and housing. We see that everything is connected. And it's our role and the role of everyone to make this topic more popular and build a big grassroots movement. The campaign The Answer is Us has this aspect of communication, visibility, and complaint highlighted by Bia and the other colleagues, but it also has this aspect of unity of grassroots organizations that are trying to build a process of defense of their territories and advance of rights. It has a mobilization calendar. On the 15th in Belém, we're going to join the big march that is happening in the context of the People's Summit. People's Summit understands the process of COP30 not as an event, but as a long and consuming process. So we're trying to debate and advocate in these spaces, but it should also be a moment for us to advance in the agenda of the rights of peoples, the peoples in the Amazon, especially. This is a historical agenda that needs to be paid attention to, the protection of human rights defenders that are in the front line, especially the women that are being criminalized, persecuted, and threatened in this process. These are all things that we have to combine with this debate of climate crisis and climate change. And we should understand also the contradiction of the political struggle. Alana drew the attention to this, and I would like to comment on it as well. We want COP30 in Brazil to be a success. We want the country to prove that it is a leadership, and we understand it as part of the fight that we have to carry out, including during the election next year. The dispute next year is not going to be easy. It's going to be as difficult as 2022. And it's the real threat of this country returning to the hands of the right. And we know what it means to the lives of the peoples, to our biomes, our territories, and the Congress is not less important. While we are discussing, while we're having pre-COP here next door, maybe tomorrow the Congress can eliminate the bans, the vetoes that Lula gave against the deforestation bill of law. We need to build popular mobilization, question the limits of this political system. All of the challenges that we see now and in the future as well. So I would like to thank once again ICS for the invitation. I hope that we have more opportunities to talk and exchange on these initiatives. And free Palestine. Free the Palestinian people for all of the peoples in struggle in all countries.
Muito bem, gente, em nome do
Very nice, guys. On behalf of the Institute Climate and Society, I would like to thank you all for the generous contributions of Sila, Alana, Dione, Elisa, and obviously everyone here for listening as well. I would like to remind you that this conversation is a call to reaffirm and restate the protagonism of all of us in the fight against climate change. We have a clear message here that without demarcation, without the fight against environmental racism, without facing all of those challenges that we have in our daily lives, but especially without the engagement of people, we cannot face this big challenge. So it is my invitation to you, engage more in this agenda. Thank you very much and have a great event.
A resposta somos nós.
The answer is us. Wonderful, Tati. Thank you very much. Thank you so much for the contributions. Let's give room for this official photo.
Gente, então mais uma vez muito obrigada.
Once again, thank you very much. This panel took longer than predicted, but it was shorter than necessary because we needed to listen to this wisdom and finish the day today with this voice of the territories reverberating in each one of us. And we changed the schedule because we see that 1/3 of the participants are outside, and we're going to have the pre-COP participants in a few minutes. And we don't want to lose your attention to the campaign Si Latimos, which is also very important, but it's going to be left for tomorrow morning, okay?
Só aqui a gente vai mudar, mas para vocês terem uma
We're
ideia.
going to change it here, but just for you to have an idea of what we're going to do tomorrow, please be punctual upon arrival. We're going to have a recap of today, presenting the panels, the drawing panels. We still have a message from Professor Flavio. Please don't leave. We have summary and the analysis of pre-COP, and then we have 2 other simultaneous dialogues in the fishbowl dynamics, one about just transition, the second about adaptation. Tomorrow we're going to take a deep dive on these 2 topics, and then we're going to have a wrap-up session. In the beginning of the day, we have the presentation of the campaign Si Latimos. I would like to invite now Professor Flavio Barros from the Anthropology School of the University of Pará to invite us to read a publication that they're having. Please, Professor. Recap of the pre-COP will happen with organizations that were there. So it is very important for you to be here because this is building a bridge between the pre-COP and this space. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Flavio Barros. I am a professor of the Federal University of Pará. So I come from the city that will host you. I come from the biggest university of the Pan-Amazon, and I would like to talk about the movement Science and Voices. It is a movement we created a year ago to listen to the voices of social movements, indigenous peoples, the traditional communities of MAB, MTST, all of the different movements, because we will host in our campus the People Summit. It is a very special moment for us from the Federal University of Pará, and I would also like to reinforce an educational, inclusive action that we created, a participatory action, due to the need to bring the children, the youth, the marginalized communities, the art. So we created a publication, and this publication has been elaborated since February in 4 languages. They are published in our hot site called Amazônia na Copy. This publication is also in the printed format, and in all the different editions, we have writings from community leaders with their struggles, with their ideas of what happened in their land territories and sea territories. And today we wanted to communicate that we will publish a special edition only with writings from leaders, including in their indigenous languages, because we also have to communicate to the world our cultural wealth. I don't know if you know it, but only Pará speaks 23 languages, more than the whole continent of Europe. And we would like to especially invite everyone who is here in this round table, sitting on these couches, to add their speeches written in the way that you mentioned, the way that you prefer, with the support of a linguistic professor that will assist you. So we invite you to be in Belém and participate in the People's Summits that we are organizing in our university campus, expecting about 15,000 people from movements from all over the world. Thank you very much.
Obrigada, professor.
Thank you very much, Professor.
Ixi, ficou para eu distribuir, gente.
I'm sorry. We have only in Spanish and English. We don't have in Portuguese, but we have a few copies here for you to look at.
Pessoal, coquetel, hora de conectar.
Cocktail now, guys. Time to connect, time to network, time to potentialize the agendas, celebrate, rest, have fun. We see you tomorrow at 8:30, starting at 9 on the dot. Thank you very much and see you tomorrow.